The silent invasion Earth had known peace for nearly a century. The great global conflicts of the past were distant memories, preserved only in history books and the stories of those few elders who remembered a time of division. By 2150, humanity had finally achieved what many had thought impossible: a unified planet working toward common goals. Climate change had been reversed, disease largely conquered, and poverty significantly reduced. Humanity looked to the stars, with hope rather than fear, unaware that the stars were already looking back. The Voidborn Empire had ruled the Centaurus arm of the galaxy for millennia. A species evolved in the darkness between stars. They were creatures of shadow and silence, communicating through subtle electromagnetic pulses and viewing all light-dependent species as inferior. Their empire spanned hundreds of worlds, each one harvested for resources before being left as husks. They moved like ghosts through the cosmos, leaving little trace of their passing except for dead worlds. When their long-range scouts detected Earth's transmissions, the Voidborn were initially dismissive. Another primitive species making noise, in the void. But further analysis revealed something that made the Voidborn Imperial Council pause. Earth possessed a biological diversity unseen anywhere else in their conquered territories. The planet teemed with millions of unique species, each with genetic traits that could be weaponized, commercialized, and exploited across the empire. The invasion began without ships, without beams of light streaking across the sky. It began with silence. On May 17, 2150, the eastern seaboard of North America experienced what authorities called a cascading power failure. For 6 hours, 50 million people sat in darkness. 3 days later, the same thing happened across Europe. Then Asia. Each blackout lasted precisely 6 hours. Each came without warning. Each defied explanation. Dr. Eleanor Chen, working at the Global Energy Monitoring Station in Geneva, was the first to notice the pattern. During each blackout, there was a subtle but measurable fluctuation in the electromagnetic field surrounding the affected areas. Something or someone was testing Earth's infrastructure, probing for weaknesses. "They're learning about us," she told the hastily assembled World Security Council. "These aren't random events, they're reconnaissance." Her warnings might have been dismissed as paranoia if not for what happened next. During a routine satellite maintenance mission, astronaut commander Marcus Jackson witnessed something impossible: a patch of space that appeared to bend light around it. When he moved closer to investigate, his communication with Earth abruptly terminated. 12 hours later, his maintenance pod was found drifting in orbit, empty. The first official contact came 3 days later. Every screen on Earth, from massive public displays to personal devices, simultaneously went black before showing a single image, a shifting shadowy form that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. No words were spoken. Instead, a series of mathematical equations appeared, universal in any language: an introduction, a declaration of superiority, and a demand for Earth's surrender. The World Security Council, led by chairperson Amara Okafor, attempted diplomatic contact using the same mathematical language. They received no response. Instead, key military installations around the world began reporting equipment failures. Defense systems shut down without explanation. Communication networks collapsed one by one. Earth was being systematically disarmed. In the chaos that followed, unlikely heroes emerged. Dr. Chen, working with a team of physicists and xenobiologists, theorized that the Voidborn, as they came to be called, were using Earth's own electromagnetic spectrum against it. "They're not just communicating through it," she explained. "They're existing within it. These beings have evolved to manipulate electromagnetic energy as naturally as we manipulate physical objects." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. 17-year-old Zoe Miyazaki, daughter of a sound engineer, was interning at Chen's lab when she noticed something odd. During tests of various electromagnetic frequencies, she had left her father's experimental sound system running in the background. When specific sound frequencies played, the electromagnetic disturbances in the lab seemed to stabilize. "It's disrupting their communication somehow," Zoe suggested. "Maybe even hurting them?" Dr. Chen's team quickly expanded on this discovery. The Voidborn had evolved in the silence of space in environments where sound could not travel. Their biology had never needed to account for pressure waves moving through matter. Sound, especially certain frequencies, wasn't just uncomfortable for them, it was devastating. While governments worldwide struggled to mount conventional defenses against an enemy they couldn't see, Dr. Chen and her growing team worked to develop what they called sonic countermeasures. If the Voidborn could attack through Earth's electromagnetic infrastructure, humans would fight back through the physical environment the invaders were trying to occupy. The first test came when a Voidborn infiltration unit was detected attempting to take control of the quantum computing center in Osaka. Instead of evacuating, Dr. Chen's team sealed the building and activated a network of hastily installed sonic emitters. The frequencies they broadcast were barely perceptible to human ears, but their effect on the invisible invaders was immediate and dramatic. For the first time, humans could see their enemy, not with their eyes, but through the disturbances in the air as the sound waves encountered resistance. The shadowy forms writhed and pulsed before retreating, leaving behind strange residue that seemed to evaporate upon contact with direct light. It was humanity's first victory against the Voidborn, small but significant. More importantly, it proved Dr. Chen's theory correct. The invaders had a weakness, one uniquely suited to a planet filled with creatures who had evolved to produce and perceive sound. News of the successful defense spread quickly. Around the world, people began constructing makeshift sonic barriers using everything from concert speakers to household devices. The frequencies were standardized and distributed through still-functioning communication channels. Communities organized sound patrols, keeping specific areas clean through constant acoustic monitoring. The Voidborn, facing unexpected resistance, escalated their tactics. If they couldn't infiltrate quietly, they would come with force. The first visible ships appeared in Earth's atmosphere 7 days after the Osaka defense. Massive structures that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it, moving with impossible silence despite their size. Their arrival should have triggered panic. Instead, it was met with grim determination. Humanity now knew they faced extinction, but they also knew they weren't defenseless. As the shadow ships positioned themselves over major cities, Earth prepared for the real battle to begin. Dr. Chen, now operating from a mobile command center, as the Voidborn targeted known resistance leaders, put the final touches on what she called the Symphony of Survival, a coordinated global sonic defense network designed to not just repel the invaders, but drive them from Earth entirely. They thought we would surrender in silence, Dr. Chen told her team as they watched the ships blot out the stars. They're about to discover just how loud humanity can be. As the first attack ships began their descent toward New Shanghai, the largest metropolitan area on the planet, 50 million people waited with devices in hand, ready to broadcast the carefully calculated frequencies that represented Earth's best hope for survival. The symphony was about to begin its first movement, with the fate of humanity hanging on its harmonies. The Symphony of Survival. The Voidborn attack on New Shanghai began at dawn, their shadow ships descending through the cloud layer like ink spreading through water. The city's 20 million inhabitants watched in eerie silence, not in fear, but in anticipation. When the first ship reached 5,000 meters above the city center, a single tone rang out from the Global Defense Network headquarters. It was the signal they had been waiting for. In an instant, New Shanghai became the loudest place in human history. Every speaker, every device, every human voice united in broadcasting precisely calibrated sound frequencies. The wall of sound rose like a physical force, meeting the descending ships in midair. To human observers, nothing seemed to happen for several long seconds. Then, the massive lead ship shuddered. Its perfectly smooth surface began to ripple as though made of liquid rather than solid matter. The distortions grew more violent until, with a flash of released energy that temporarily blinded everyone watching, the ship simply came apart. Remaining attack vessels immediately reversed course, retreating to high orbit where Earth's atmosphere couldn't carry the devastating sound waves. It was a victory, but Dr. Chen knew it was only temporary. They'll adapt, she warned the World Security Council. The Voidborn didn't build an empire by giving up after one defeat. We need to expand the symphony. The next phase of humanity's defense strategy was more ambitious. Using the global communications network, those parts still free from Voidborn influence, Dr. Chen's team coordinated a planet-wide sonic defense grid. Massive sound projectors were constructed at strategic locations, while civilian populations were organized into harmony groups, each assigned specific frequencies to maintain protective sonic barriers around population centers. What made the symphony truly powerful, however, was its constant evolution. Dr. Chen recognized that the Voidborn would eventually develop countermeasures against specific frequencies, so the symphony was designed to continuously shift and adapt, incorporating new tones and patterns based on observed Voidborn reactions. It was, in essence, a musical conversation between species, one speaking through electromagnetic manipulation, the other responding through acoustic pressure. The Voidborn's next attack targeted this adaptability directly. Using their control over portions of Earth's communications infrastructure, they attempted to corrupt the symphony's coordination system, introducing dissonant frequencies that would create gaps in the defensive network. For several hours it seemed they might succeed. Sonic barriers around several minor cities faltered, allowing Voidborn ground forces to establish footholds. It was Zoe Miyazaki, the teenager whose insight had helped discover the Voidborn weakness, who found the solution. While Dr. Chen and her team struggled to purge the corrupted coordination system, Zoe realized that humans didn't actually need electronic communication to maintain the symphony. We've been making music together for thousands of years without computers, she pointed out. We can feel when we're in harmony. This simple observation led to a radical shift in strategy. Instead of relying on centralized coordination, the symphony became genuinely decentralized. Communities learned to maintain their sonic defenses independently, adjusting by ear and intuition rather than algorithm. Choirs formed in city squares, their voices amplified and tuned to the most effective anti-Voidborn frequencies. Street musicians incorporated defense tones into their performances. Schools taught children to recognize and reproduce the sounds that kept their neighborhoods safe. What had begun as a scientific countermeasure evolved into something approaching cultural identity. Humanity was literally singing for its survival. The Voidborn, facing this unexpectedly resilient and distributed opposition, changed tactics again. Their Imperial Council dispatched their flagship, a colossal vessel that dwarfed even their largest attack ships, carrying technology specifically designed to neutralize acoustic countermeasures. The ship generated an anti-sound field that canceled out the defensive frequencies, creating zones of true silence where the Voidborn could operate at full capacity. As the flagship took position above the Atlantic Ocean, equidistant from the most populous continents, Earth's leaders debated desperate options. Some advocated nuclear strikes despite the atmospheric consequences. Others suggested surrender negotiations, hoping to at least preserve some portion of humanity as slaves rather than face extinction. Dr. Chen proposed a third option, Operation Crescendo. The anti-sound field has one fundamental weakness, she explained. It works by producing exactly opposite sound waves to cancel out our frequencies. But if we can overload it, produce more sound than it can possibly counter, the system will collapse. The plan required every human on Earth to participate simultaneously, the largest coordinated action in human history. At precisely 14 Aoki UTC on August 3, 2150, every sound-producing device on the planet would broadcast at maximum volume, while every human voice would join in a planet-wide shout. The energy required was so massive that non-essential power systems worldwide would temporarily shut down to ensure sufficient electricity for the sound projectors. As the appointed time approached, the Voidborn flagship extended its silencing field, creating an expanding bubble of absolute quiet that swallowed portions of coastal cities on 3 continents. Within these zones, the shadow forces began methodical harvesting operations, collecting genetic samples from both humans and the planet's diverse ecosystem. Then, at 14 hours UTC exactly, Earth roared. The combined acoustic energy of nearly 10 billion humans and countless machines hit the silencing field like a physical blow. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. The field held. But as the sound continued, not diminishing but growing, stronger as more systems came online, stress fractures appeared in the perfect hemisphere of silence. Like cracks spreading across ice, they multiplied and widened until, with a thunderclap heard across half the planet, the field shattered. The unfiltered wall of sound slammed into the void-borne flagship with catastrophic effect. Unable to withstand the acoustic pressure, the massive vessel began to break apart. As it disintegrated in Earth's upper atmosphere, it released a final electromagnetic pulse. Not an attack, but a signal. A retreat order. Across the planet, the remaining void-borne forces abandoned their operations, fleeing toward emergency extraction, points where smaller ships waited. Within hours, Earth's skies were clear of the shadow vessels. The invasion was over. In the days that followed, humanity began to understand the true significance of what had happened. The void-borne hadn't just been repelled. They had been definitively defeated using a method they had never encountered in thousands of years of conquest. The implications were staggering. 3 weeks after Operation Crescendo, Earth received its first contact from non-void-borne extraterrestrial intelligence. The Galactic Conclave, a loose alliance of spacefaring civilizations that had long existed under void-borne domination, sent representatives to formally thank humanity for achieving what none of them had managed, breaking the void-borne empire's aura of invincibility. Your species has done more than save your own world, the Conclave ambassador, a crystalline being that communicated through light patterns, told the World Security Council. You have given hope to 100 enslaved worlds. The void-borne believed themselves superior because they conquered through silence. You proved that the universe is never truly silent, and that there is power in making noise. Earth's entry onto the galactic stage was unlike anything the Conclave had witnessed before. Most species joined the interstellar community after centuries of gradual technological development. Humanity had effectively kicked down the door, announcing their presence by defeating one of the oldest and most feared powers in the known galaxy. The symphony, originally developed as a defensive measure, became Earth's first cultural export to the stars. Species across the Conclave adopted modified versions of it, using sound in ways unique to their biological capabilities to resist void-borne influence in their own systems. What began as weapons became art, then ritual, then tradition, across species, celebration of resistance against tyranny. One Earth year after the invasion, the void-borne empire formally acknowledged defeat for the first time in its recorded history. Their emissaries, heavily shielded against sound, signed a non-aggression pact with Earth and withdrew their forces from several conclave worlds they had previously dominated. As Earth established its first extraterrestrial embassies and welcomed alien diplomats to specially constructed facilities, Dr. Chen reflected on the unexpected outcome of the invasion. They came in silence, expecting fear, she told Zoe Miyazaki, now her official protege and a rising star in xenological acoustics. Instead, they got a symphony. They wanted genetic diversity, but what they really discovered was cultural diversity, the human ability to create, adapt, and overcome through cooperation. The void-borne had threatened Earth with extinction. In response, humanity had not only saved itself, but changed the balance of power across an entire galactic arm. Earth became known throughout the Conclave as the world that sang back the shadows, and the species that taught the stars to sing along. As the first anniversary of victory approached, New Shanghai prepared a memorial concert to honor those lost in the first attack. The composers promised it would be heard not just across Earth, but, thanks to newly installed acoustic amplifiers in Earth's orbit, across neighboring star systems as well. It would be humanity's first intentional message to the cosmos at large. We are here, we are loud, and we will not be silenced. In the darkness between stars, the remnants of the void-borne empire listened and trembled.